All right, we're going to look at our pace methodology for rope grabs. On this one, our primary is going to be our rope man. Rope man's an extremely versatile rope grab that goes from anywhere from a 7 or 8 millimeter up to a 13 millimeter. When we look at this, we're going to do this in the context of a mechanical advantage. We're going to be looking kind of at a 3-to-1 or a 5-to-1 just for the context of a rope grab. Realize that also with our MA, it's going to be rigged the same way as if we're ascending. So in this case, the progressive capture, that whatever we're using would be on our harness. This would be holding our foot loop and or what we rig our 1-to-1 or 3-to-1 off of. So we open that up just like a pulley, throw that right onto our rope. We jam that cam back so this stays open. We're just going to use a roll clip on this one and feed that into its configuration. We're going to roll that over to this side. You can kind of see how that cam opens back. The flat side is what faces the load. We're going to take our haul line and we're just going to clip it into our 3-to-1. Don't worry about using a locking carabiner on this because our progressive capture has our load even if anything ever should happen with this. We know that it's positioned right because I can slide that forward, and when I pull back, it grabs. We're rigging this in a very small configuration, which we kind of suggest to do, especially if you have a lot of rope out. That way when you're rigging, nothing gets lost. As if it's all the way back at the edge, everything is nice and compact. We can see that we have no twists in anything, and then we can extend that out when we're ready to start our hauling. And that is your rope man. Alright, we're on our alternate for pace with our kit. This one we're using our Spock. The Spock would end up being a pretty expensive rope grab when we're looking at it. Very effective, but in the end, because of its pulley that it has in there, we usually prefer to have that onto our anchor as our progressive capture. But you happen to find yourself with a progressive capture that you prefer on there, you need a quick rope grab, very fast to put on. In this, just like before, that cam is going to be going back towards our anchor. We talk about how this is working in a progressive capture video, but we pull forward, keep it forward, it releases the cam down onto the rope. We need it locked back, we pull it forward, and then reach back. When we place that onto our rope, simply just there, I'm going to have it in this configuration so we can put it in 3-to-1. I pull forward, I release it, it now moves forward and grabs coming back. Putting this into the context of our 3-to-1, that is where our pulley is. This would come directly in, snap in, and that would be how that pulls back. And you'll see if we max out, we can then just reset it by sliding it forward. Cam is facing your anchor, pull is back. Alright, moving on into our alternate rope grabs. We're going to show two actually ways to tie a prusik, and with that it's going to be a Clem Heist and a multi-wrap Hedon. A lot of people will talk about a Clem Heist not being as great as a 3-wrap prusik because it won't go both ways. If you tie it on backwards, then it won't go, but it actually does. It just goes by a different name, and we'll show you that. So on the Clem Heist, if we think about putting that bite forward to the head of that snake head, we're going to put that towards our load, and then we're going to wrap that. The beauty about your Clem Heist is whether I'm using a prusik, I can use it on webbing, I can actually put an 8mm on an 8mm. In some cases I'll be able to put an 8mm on a 7mm or 7.5. Just be able to test it, keep it tight, and if you need more wraps, you can add more wraps. So for this on our Clem Heist, we know this 8mm on this 8mm works really well. So I take it, I did my 3 wraps, I'm going to take that through this bite up here. Once that's through, I'm going to crank that back and seat it and make sure that it's grabbing like it should. At that point, my roll clip or a carabiner with a pulley will go in, and in the configuration of my 3-to-1, that's what we're looking at. Now, beauty of this is you can also tie it the opposite direction. So if we were backwards and we screwed up, or we purposely did it, we can do it the other way, and as we saw before on our progressive captures, this then would be called a multi-wrap Hedon. So in that, I'm going to stick with the same 3 wraps around there. I'm going to send those back, and this is going to go fall in line. The only difference is it's not pulling against this. That would be your Clem Heist. In this configuration, it's pulling with that bite. I would load this up. I'm going to set this out here just slightly. Go ahead and clip in, and that is my multi-wrap heating. All right, we're looking at contingency now as far as rope grabs go. When we look at this, we're using a VT prusik. For this, although it's contingency on here, it could become your primary depending on your system design and what you're trying to accomplish or any of the constraints that you're dealing with in the environment. What this allows us to do, the VT, compared to any of our other rope grabs, is release the load under tension. So with this, where that will come in handy is if we've overpulled and now our casualty or our load is stuck, we can then pull slightly on our 3-to-1, 5-to-1, whatever you're dealing with, to release the cam on our Spock in this case. And we can actually just sit here with our 3-to-1 and manage that without having to move all the way to the edge and then retract it back. So it allows us to do it very, very quickly, which is very nice. On this, we're going to be tying a VT prusik. Understand that there's a couple different ways to tie this. We're going to tie a traditional VT on this. If you want to check out the other methods, check out our video on tying a VT, XT, or a modified XT. This is the VT. I start off with the VT going over with my ends being even. I pick one side or the other, and I wrap that twice up. You can wrap it more times up. You have people that do 3 times, 4 times up. Check it out with your rope, how it manages it. Make your decision off that. So at this point, the top part is now going to come down into a braid at the bottom. I'm going to bring that down, and this bottom one is going to capture that. As I do that, this is where I want to check again to make sure that my lines are pretty even. Once I come in and I've got a good even distance on the bottom, I'm going to start my French braid, which is very similar to what we've done before. There's actually French braid prusiks. There's also what we do with the element PURCELL. So once those are even, I capture that, and now they alternate. Because this is on top here, it's going to be on the bottom, so it'll go around first. Then the one on my left is going to capture that. As far as the side that you're looking at, it's always going to stay consistent. So every time that I am in this position, it'll always be my right over, then my left, then it's going to be my left, then my right, and they just alternate. And these catch the weight as it goes down. I like to keep these pretty snug when I do it and max that out. So on this one, I'm just going to place the roll clip into it, put that into its configuration, and you're going to see as this grabs, it spreads out. That's why we're able to use an 8mm on an 8mm. I'm able to use an 8mm on a 7.5mm and still have it grab. My weight gets distributed through this. So as we do this, I will take my haul line, plug it into my 3-to-1, and this is how it pulls. The heavier the weight, the more this gets milked out. The one downside on a VT is you do lose some distance because of how it stretches out. And reset, just comes right up. All right, we're looking at another option for contingencies. This is just going to be a 3-wrap spine wrap. We can use this anytime we are working after our progressive capture, so it really will not work unless you just have very, very, very short haul as a lead rope grab. So our lead rope grab here in a 3-to-1 is using our rope man. Now we're coming back and we're just going to build a 5-to-1 complex. This will work in most of your compounds and most of your complex mechanical advantages outside of some of the Spanish Burtons. So after I need to do a reset, all this is going to be slack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that carabiner, and if you think about it, I'm going to pull some of that slack up with it weighted already, and it's going to go right through my carabiner. When I'm looking at this, I'm going to say I have my 3-to-1 side and I have my progressive capture side. We're going to grab from our progressive capture side closest to our anchor, and we're just going to add 2 more wraps. So this is already laying in there, and we're going to pull that up and go 1, 2. So now you can see how this resets straight up to there. Now when I pull this in, I'm going to grab my pulley, throw my rope in here, and keeping my system clean without crossing over, I'm just going to place this into the carabiner that's holding my 3-wrap. At that point, I can reset that up tight, and then you'll see how these collapse together as my 5-to-1 complex. When I need to reset, I just grab the tail end and push it right back up to my anchor, and then can continue to haul without using another rope grab. Another option for our emergency is going to be actually using the PURCELL prusik tied in the element configuration. On this, we use this probably more often than not when we want to save a rope grab and a carabiner when we're ascending. So we need a foot strap, so this will usually go above where our progressive capture is on our waist, so we can do this without it, especially if we're just planning on doing a one-to-one pull. We can also use this as a mechanical advantage, just making one slight modification. We're going to tie this in a Clem Heist configuration, so really want to tie this nice and tight when we're making our first corners. That'll save us from having to tighten it later. Make it so we have that bite up in here. I'm going to send that right on through and go. One thing we got to realize is when we're tying this, whether we're using this PURCELL, let's say, onto our harness and we're girth hitching it and it's going to be part of our edge restraint, or when we're doing this, we want to use the single side, which is what we did here, compared to the double side. If we tie the double side onto that, or we girth hitch the double side through our harness, we're unable to adjust it like what we want to do with it, what it's made to do. We can't adjust it without gaining slack into one of the strands that are on there. So always use your girth, or if you're using it to wrap, into the single side, the single bite side. And this is what's grabbing. From there, we can still adjust it for our foot straps and make it really easy. If we needed to use this, because this is all we had left, as our rope grab and a mechanical advantage, we're going to handle it just like we would if we were using a bunch of cordelette. And in that, I just need enough room to be able to click a carabiner in there. So we're just going to tie an overhand in there, and the rest of this is basically just going to be slack force. So I can kind of adjust that so I can maximize my throw, and at that point, this is where our carabiner will go. So this is in the case that we're using this for a rope grab within our mechanical advantage, and that is going to look just like this. The rest is just going to be slack.